Welcome to Systemic Perspective Assumptions. It's in this stage of the process that it's appropriate to go back and look at all of the conclusions that have been arrived at in each of the previous stages in the process. Look at those assumptions and attempt to validate that they are in fact correct. What happens is that we constantly make assumptions about things. Especially when we run into things that are consistent with what we believe, we don't actually attempt to verify and validate them. We just assume that they're appropriate, and it's a little risky to go forward from this point if we have in fact not ensured that the assumptions that we have made along the way to this point are correct, that we are in fact on firm ground. What happens is that we take observable data and experience, and we select from that what we choose to pay attention to, and we add meanings to it based upon our own culture, our own personal values and beliefs, and then we make assumptions about those meanings and draw conclusions. I mean, it's just we seem to have this passion about things needing to make sense to us, so we figure out a way for them to make sense. So once we draw those conclusions, we establish or adopt a set of beliefs about the things that we have worked our way up this ladder about, and then in the future we in fact take action on those beliefs. And what happens is this ladder of inference, as it's called, which was developed by Chris Argyris, and also shows up in Sengi's The Fifth Discipline and a lot of other places, that there's actually a feedback loop in here, so that the beliefs that we in fact adopt are part of the basis for the data that we select to pay attention to. So rather than actually pay attention to the real data and experience created from our actions, we tend to pay attention to that data which is consistent with what we already believe. Now, there's another way of looking at this. It's not actually a ladder. It's let me get rid of this. It's actually a loop. It's a reinforcing belief development cycle wherein the actions that we take create real data and experience. From that real data and experience, we pay attention to that, affix meaning, create assumptions, connections, beliefs, which form the basis of future actions. And this should in fact be a reinforcing loop that promotes our growth and development on an ongoing basis, though for the feedback loop that I added a few moments ago, that the beliefs in fact actually cause us to limit or select some subset of the data that's consistent with what we believe, so that this is a belief protection loop. This structure actually represents a limits to growth structure, where based upon the beliefs that we have established, it actually limits our own growth and development in the future. It's sort of we choose what we believe, and then we believe what we choose, and it's because of that it's essential that we go back and look at all of the things that we have in fact concluded along the way in all of the previous segments of this development process, so that we go back and we look at the situation and we look at the way that we have described it and the implications and the idealized design that we want, and attempt to ensure that what we have concluded is in fact valid. We do that by asking ourselves about what could in fact, the things that we have decided, what could in fact make that invalid? Is there a way that it isn't true? What things have we taken on face value and not looked in further? Have we paid attention to the appropriate set of historical behaviors, or have we left some of them out? Is the model of that set of interactions that we believe are relevant for the situation actually, is it actually an appropriate model? Are the set of stakeholders that we have identified to be involved in moving forward and developing the leverage and strategy for this situation, is it a complete set of stakeholders? Is it all of the relevant ones? Are the boundaries in the right places? So it is in fact an effort to go back and verify and validate all of the things that we have done to this point. I have said before that the process model itself has an enormous number of feedback loops in it that aren't depicted because it would just make the diagram far too confusing. So that in every stage it's appropriate to say, have I learned something at this stage that causes me, that's such that it warrants me to go back and revisit some prior stage of the process and alter it in some way to make it more appropriate with regard to the situation that's under consideration. So once we have, and you know, one of the things that I find is real helpful in validating assumptions is to present it to somebody else that hasn't been involved, that's actually not a stakeholder in the situation, doesn't have an axe to grind for one reason or another, and present the situation, present all of the things that have been developed to this point, and let them look at it with a new set of eyes and ask you questions that you just simply don't ask yourself because you're already too familiar with the situation. And when they ask those questions, don't debate with them about the questions that they ask. Actually think about them and endeavor to understand where they're coming from in asking those questions. If you simply debate the questions that they ask, it's actually a waste of time to present it to them in the first place. So the challenge assumptions segment of the process is essential. It's critical to have that be done before we move forward to the leverage step. So, see you in the next video. Bye.